Hey BHD, it's good to see you all today and to be with you. I guess I can't actually see you, but I am with you. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak some encouragement into your life. And I'm grateful for the blessing of this day and all of the wonderful beauty that the Creator has blessed us with. And I'm hopeful that today you'll be able to take some time in your own spaces and think about the things that you're thankful for. I find that gratitude has a way of grounding me. When things are kind of in chaos all around me, it's often really helpful to think about the things that I am grateful for. So as I think about those things, I'm thankful for my grandchildren, I'm thankful for my children, my husband, I'm thankful for gentle breezes that I've been able to enjoy today, and I'm thankful for the sunshine that's helping my tomato plants to grow. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to do work that I love and to care for people that I love. And so I feel very grateful for this life that I've been granted and given. I'm thankful that I woke up this morning. My stepdad is in hospice, and I ask him every morning, "How's your day?" And he says, "Any day that I wake up is a good day." And I think that kind of puts it in perspective for us. You know, any day that we wake up can be a good day. And so I wonder today if in this moment of quiet, I'm going to be still for just about a minute, and I'm going to invite you to think about the things that you're grateful for. What is it that fills your heart with joy today? So I'm going to get real quiet and just take a deep breath in and let it out slow, and then allow you some space to think about what you might be grateful for. So Amen. Well, something that I'm sure you're all aware of is just the ongoing strange times that we're living in. We went through a very long period of time where we had to kind of shelter in place at home. A lot of folks lost their jobs, and a lot of families experienced grief and loss, and a lot of families had a hard time during that shelter in place time. And while we're still practicing and need to be very vigilant about practicing our social distancing and trying to protect ourselves from one another's germs, in the midst of all of that, there's been injustice in our nation, and then all over our nation, people are marching, crying out for justice. So what I'm experiencing in our nation as a whole is a sense of unrest, a sense of anger, a sense of grief and loss and sorrow. There are some spaces where there's joy. There are some spaces where there's hope, and I'm grateful for that. But I want to speak to you today about how to internally care for yourself when the world around you is literally in a state of anger and unrest, and it's difficult to find your peace. So I'll start with a story. One evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside of people. He said, "My son, the battle is between two wolves inside us all. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, false pride, superiority, and ego." It's a lot of stuff. The other wolf is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about this for a while, and then he asks his grandfather, "Well, which wolf wins?" And the old Cherokee simply replied, "The one you feed." And I think there's a lot of truth in that. That the spirit or the nature inside of us that we feed is the one that will grow. And pulling up my scripture here, just a moment. So I want to ask you today, which nature within are you feeding? I also want to take a minute to talk a little bit about anger. I think that there's a lot of things going on in our world right now that anger is the right response. That we should be speaking out about injustice. That we should be standing up for truth. And in those spaces, those can be really angry spaces. And I think that anger gets a bad rap. I think that sometimes anger can serve a really important purpose in our life. It can move us to act. It can help us to find our courage. I know a lot of folks who have experienced problems with addiction. I know for myself, many years ago when I struggled with addiction, I had to get really angry with myself. I'm sick of this addiction. I hate this addiction. I had to get angry with myself to find the courage within to be able to fight against the addiction. And so sometimes that anger can really serve us well when we can use that anger in healthy and positive ways. It can help us to find compassion for others who are experiencing injustice. So anger, while it can be a really important and healthy tool for us to use in our life, but it's also one of those tools that we have to be careful with, because if we just keep feeding the anger and the anger and the anger, and we're not feeding the love and the compassion and the joy and the hope, then the anger becomes all powerful and overwhelming within us. And so it's important to remember that even though we may have really good reasons to be angry sometimes, we still have to make sure that we're feeding those spaces within us that are good and hopeful and full of gratitude and generosity and compassion, so that the anger doesn't take over and rule our lives. Because when anger takes over and rules our lives, then it's difficult to find places of rest. It's difficult to find places of peace within. It's difficult to find places where we're free from anxiety when we're being ruled by anger. And I think David, the psalmist, knew this. He knew a lot about anger. He had one of those lives that was, he did a lot of running. He was in war a lot. He was taken advantage of. He took advantage of others. I mean, he had this really chaotic life. And he understood what it meant to kind of live in that angry space. And so he writes this psalm, and I want to share it with you today. It's Psalm 37. Psalm 37. And he says, "Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass, they will soon wither. Like green plants, they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust him, and he will do this. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. And I like this verse a lot. It's a place that often helps me. It says, be still before the Lord and wait patiently for God. Do not fret when people succeed in their ways, when they carry out their wicked schemes. Refrain from anger and turn from wrath. Do not fret, it leads only to evil. And so I want to kind of lift up these verses that he's offered here. Take delight in the Lord, trust in the Lord, commit your way to God, trust him, and be still before God. Wait patiently for God. Refrain from anger and turn away from wrath. There's a difference between being angry and being wrathful. You know, we can be angry and kind of hold that and allow that to inform the way that we walk in the world. It can inform the way that we seek justice. It can inform the way that we have compassion. It can inform the way that we reach out to those who are marginalized. But wrath is something different. Wrath is a vengeance. It's a vengeful God. And it's a intoxicated anger, if you will, when you desire wrath. And it means you're out looking for wrathful vengeance and destruction. And David is warning us here. He's saying, yeah, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go into that wrathful place. If we just be still before God and we lift our anger up to God and we commit our way to God, then God will direct our steps. He will patiently and gently guide us so that we can use our anger for good and for positive things. And so I lift this up to you today because I know that there are some of you that are hearing this today that have maybe been carrying around a lot of anger. And so I don't speak to you today to condemn your anger or to tell you your anger is bad or to tell you you shouldn't be angry, because I think sometimes there's reasons to be angry. But what I am going to encourage you to do is to not feed that anger to the point that it becomes wrath, and that you begin to think about feeding that nature within that will build hope, that will build peace, that will build generosity and compassion and love within. And how do we do that? How do we feed that within ourselves? Well, we feed that by practicing that. We practice love, we practice forgiveness, we practice grace, we practice generosity, we practice hope, we practice kindness. These are the things that help to grow that peace within. And something else that helps me a lot is this prayer called the Serenity Prayer. Now, I know a lot of you have heard the Serenity Prayer, so this is not probably new to most of you, but it really helps me to think about it. It says, God, grant me the serenity. Well, what is serenity? It's God, grant me peace, wholeness within, peace between mind, body, and spirit. God, grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change. You know, there are a whole lot of things in this world that I cannot change, that I can get really caught up in anxiety and anger and frustration and get really kind of stuck in this striving space because I can't change it. I mean, it's out of my control to change it. And so help me to accept the things I cannot change. But God, grant me the courage to change the things I can. Well, what can we change? Why do we need courage to change the things we can? Well, there's a lot of things in the world that we can use our voices for. And sometimes we need some courage to use our voices to stand up for what's right. Sometimes we need some courage to kind of draw some healthy boundaries in our life. You know, if we know that we're in a relationship with a friend or a family member that's just destructive to us, then we got to draw some healthy boundaries, and that can be really, really difficult to do. And so we've got to draw some healthy boundaries, and sometimes we need courage to do the hard things. And then the prayer goes on to say, and grant me the wisdom to know the difference. And sometimes that's where I get stuck. I get stuck because I'm not sure, can I, change this? Can I not change this? I'm not sure. I need some wisdom. And so sometimes I got to look outside myself for wisdom. Sometimes I have this voice within that guides me, and that's some internal wisdom. And it's helpful to just stop and be still, as the psalm called us to be still. And check in with myself and see if I have some internal wisdom about something. But sometimes I don't have an internal wisdom, and then I have to reach out. I have to reach out to people who've maybe walked that path before me. I have to reach out to people who've experienced some things in life that I haven't, and maybe I need their advice, or I need to know how to walk this road. And so sometimes we have to seek wisdom to know the difference. And so I offer that to you today, kind of as a way of closing our time together. It's, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. This is my prayer for you today, and I pray that it will bring you encouragement and peace to your heart. Blessings.